I think we talked about it, but in the last podcast we had, and we spoke about what his legacy, what this could do for his legacy if he played well, and obviously what it could do if he didn't. And we gave our predictions, and I predicted that he wouldn't play well, because he hasn't played well in big moments. He just really hasn't. In fact, I'd say that more of his legacy to this point has really been about how he comes up small in big moments. With all that talent, with all the ability in the world, he just comes up small, and it's really annoying to watch and frustrating because it's all in the shot selection. We've talked about it before, but the step back threes, the pull up contested jump shots, the bailouts where Steph Curry at 6'1" is able to body you up from the perimeter, and then you're going to just fall into a fadeaway jump shot right into his hands instead of forcing the issue and getting to the middle, getting to the middle of the floor, getting to the paint, and creating a basket for yourself or someone else. Um, so, you know, it's tough. It's tough with Jayson Tatum. I mean, honestly, I look at him and I just see someone who has a bunch of untapped potential, and I don't know that he'll get there. Hopefully he does, but it's an intelligence thing. I really believe that's a basketball IQ thing. I think he's smart enough to know that, hey, I'm not shooting well, so let me do other things like get rebounds. I do believe that, but it isn't necessarily like his assists are like where are assists where he's generating easy opportunities for other people necessarily. Sometimes there's swings, right? And he's making the right play, and I give him credit for that. But I do think it burns him up inside that he isn't playing great, that he isn't, the number one option for that team, that he isn't going to be the Finals MVP. I do think it burns him up inside a bit, and you can see it in some of the shots he takes. You can see it in certain moments. I know he didn't play bad statistically, but in the last game, in Game 3, but he certainly didn't play well. If you're going to really hold him to a superstar level caliber, and look, maybe we have to change our expectations for Jayson Tatum. Maybe he's just a star. There's nothing wrong with that. That might just be what it is. And this team didn't even need him to play at a star level in this series for them to win because they have so many things around him and such a great ecosystem around him that he doesn't have to play great. That's just the reality of it. Jaylen Brown has ascended. You know what I mean? And that's just the reality of it. He makes big shots in big moments. He's their vocal leader. You hear Brian Windhorst and them talking about how Jaylen Brown is the guy they hear the most during timeouts, him and Al Horford. So you're not even doing that, Jayson Tatum, right? So I do think that this ultimately goes to a place where Jayson Tatum will want to prove himself. And I do think he'll end up going somewhere. I don't think he's going to retire a Celtic if Jaylen Brown is there. I think he's going to go somewhere else. And I think he'll follow that Kobe mold. He's a big Kobe guy. He wore the Kobe roll-up shirt before this series. He texted Kobe after Kobe had left us. And he showed it. He shared that message with the world, thinking that it was, inspirational. And that's, that's a moment. We all have our opinions about it. I won't get into that, but reality is, I think that he's the kind of guy that wants to carry the load and prove people wrong. And I'll say this, and I'll leave you with this too. I think that
Oh,
these NBA stars, yeah, right. You see, you can't do that in 2024. I think thanks to Diddy, but um, see, you messed up my whole joint on live too. What I would say is about Tatum. I think that it's a bigger thing where I think all of these NBA superstars care about narrative. Because at the end, that's all you really have. You can win a bunch of championships, but at the end of the day, you want to be viewed as one of the greatest players ever play the game. People decide that. People in barbershops decide that. It isn't decided by a group of writers that vote you MVP. It isn't decided by a committee that votes for the NBA top 75. It's decided by people. People, they hold you in high esteem. They're the ones who say you're the GOAT. We wouldn't be saying Jordan was the GOAT, right, or is the GOAT if he hadn't won over the hearts of millions of people worldwide. So I just feel like the narrative really does matter to these guys, and I think that for Tatum it does too. You can see the weight on his shoulders, even though they're up 3-0. He's not playing like he doesn't look like someone who's content. That's just not really the way I view him. But I know that I'll get a lot of hate from Boston fans about how I'm wrong and all that nonsense. You know how that go.
Miles, for you, before we go, Jaylen Brown, what do you think this series, especially with its projected Vegas and all the sports talking heads, have pegged Jaylen Brown as the finals MVP? What does this do for his legacy, Jayson Tatum?
I mean, I don't think his. Sure, in the moment right now, it's not the best optic. Like, you're the best player, the guy everybody touts is, he's been first team All NBA the last couple years now. So he's been kind of like raised up to be the guy, that next Celtics great. You know, following the footsteps of Paul Pierce and Larry Bird, and now it's on you to kind of carry that mantle. But like you said, he kind of hasn't held his own in these big moments. He's had moments in the playoffs, but they're just too far in between of playing well and then, you have an off night. So like game 3, he played pretty well, although towards the end he's kind of taking silly shots, some step back threes that he shouldn't take, so the numbers don't look as good as they did. And of course, who's there to save the day? Jaylen Brown. So that doesn't look good either. So he's still young. He's like, 25, 26. And this Celtics team, I think, is good enough to like make a few more runs at the finals. And I think he'll have more chances. Although you don't want to bank on that because things can really change in the blink of an eye. I mean, the Bucks championship window closed pretty quickly. Even though they got Dame, I still think it's closed. The Warriors is closed. But the Celtics, they've made a lot of good moves to kind of prolong their window. Getting Drew Holiday is probably the best move they've made since getting Garnett, probably. So, but for Tatum, it just confuses me because a guy with that much talent, and of course we fall in love with, he's got the back to the basket game. He can hit the mid-range shot. But for some reason, he falls in love with the perimeter and shooting threes. And I think in the last game, he was like 2 for 12 or something like that from 3. Like, you taking that many threes, you still had a good game. But, like, imagine if half of those threes you try to go to the basket. Like, I was telling somebody else, like, if you get fouled and you put up a shot, the shot doesn't count. Like, it doesn't count towards your – I mean, that's a way of, like, stat padding. But, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, put your head down, get to the basket. Like, you can. You got the handles, you got the moves. You can get by most guys easily. Like him posting up point guards like Kyrie or Jaden Hardy, and somehow you back him down twice and then you're taking a fadeaway shot. Like, it makes no sense to me. So I feel like he almost should look at Luka's game in a way. Because he knows how to exploit the defenses. He knows how to exploit mismatches. Whether a smaller guy's on him, you back him down and take him to the cup, and then you get a big man on you, like, you can blow by that guy. And we've seen it. We've seen him do this. But, like, for some reason, I feel like he falls in love with the jump shot, falls in love with the perimeter game. And that's not going to fly if you're not Steph Curry or somebody who can hit the shot at a elite clip. Like, it looks good in the regular season because you're playing different teams every night. Nobody's going to play you as hard. You're going to get calls that you normally won't in the playoffs. So, man, it's a tough pill to swallow with Jaylen Brown most likely winning Finals MVP, and then you have to sit there and kind of I'm just going to wait for Get Up to overanalyze his reaction to him getting another trophy instead of cheering him on. They're thinking, oh, he clapped 2 seconds later than his teammates. So he's clearly not happy for Jaylen Brown. Like, they always try to draw these guys apart, but it's good. I mean, it's a good thing to have those two guys where they're like battling. It's a healthy competition between them. I think it's an unspoken competition between them. Like, Jaylen Brown, you're the second guy. You're not the best player on the team, so that makes him go harder. And now this is going to make Jayson Tatum go harder. So I think it's just going to make this team a whole lot better in the long run.